Hi, Tom. Thanks for coming back. Um, I think it's interesting to discuss how you see things coming from the insurance industry and looking at how construction's working in relation to fire. I think you've got some quite serious criticisms, haven't you?
Uh, it's it's a hard place to be. Let's put it this way: from an insurer's perspective, it's quite surprising to sort of hear all the comments that people make about the things that they're now finding are wrong with buildings, which makes it very, very challenging to sort of understand how did we get here.
Uh-huh.
There's always been challenges with how people have viewed regulations, and I've been aware over many years that there are issues with the clarity of regulations, but some of the things that we found suggest it's beyond the clarity of the regulations. It's to do with some of the sort of activities that people have undertaken and how well they've understood, the outcome they're trying to deliver.
So how would you like things to change?
I think from my perspective, there's a word that just keeps coming up, which is clarity. And it's clarity in a number of different areas. At a very basic level, it's clarity over responsibility and accountability. Who's responsible for delivering the outcome? Who's responsible and accountable for ensuring that people have met the intent of the regulations and the briefs they've been given by their client. The other side of the clarity is outcome. What's been it's been apparent for a while is if you look at some large fires we've had recently, lots of people are pointing to them and going, despite the building being completely on the ground and completely burnt to the ground.
Yes.
Some people are pointing at them and going, well, it met building regulations. And so I could sit there and go, well, that's a success then, is it? And if I showed that to your average man or woman in the street, they'd look at you and go, that's not a success.
No, absolutely.
So we need some clarity over what's the outcome we're trying to deliver. And I'm not sure,
the outcome is not burning buildings down and not killing people rather than meeting building regulations.
Yeah, it's more a case of understanding that regulations gets you so far.
Yeah.
If you intend for the building to stand up or to be more resilient over time, you're going to have to do more. Or we change our regulations to make sure that they deliver, what's going on. And that leads to the sort of the bottom line, which is really a case of there needs to be clarity over this simple thing, which is let's stop assuming, ask more questions. A lot of people are doing things, it would appear, and assuming they're going to get a particular outcome, and are surprised when that does not happen. And people will fight tooth and nail to sort of ensure that certain things or certain costs are avoided, but I'm not sure they're clear what the outcome they've given up. So one of the things that was mentioned earlier was the discussion around sprinklers.
Yes.
I'm always amazed by the number of buildings that people will tell me, well, it meets regulations and because of that, we don't need to put sprinklers in. But there's no clarity over what's been given up by not doing that.
Yes.
And rather, as we've discussed earlier, the value of that only becomes apparent when something goes wrong.
Yes. What about the idea of fire rating buildings? Do you like that idea?
I'd like the idea of I think it's going to be very difficult to sort of get to a point where we put plaques back on buildings that say this is a good one and this is a bad one.
Yeah.
It's rather like, dare I say it, previously we had a discussion where we said, actually to make it very clear to some building owners, the fire service would probably screw a label on certain buildings to say, well, actually, we're not going to go into your building and we're not going to fight a fire in it because it's too dangerous. And that would sharpen the mind for certain people, but that was never going to happen. What I do think needs to be happening, though, is when we get to some of these rating systems like BREEAM and others, it's how do we expand them to incorporate that thinking about other outcomes? So how do we put fire in them? It always baffles me that we see some of these buildings that have fantastic BREEAM ratings, yet in the face of fire, they completely burn to the ground. And yet everybody tells me it won awards, it's this, it's that. And I keep thinking, but surely all that sustainability credentials just went up in smoke. How can this be? So I think rather than putting a rating on a building, we need to look at some of the rating systems and the valuation we have for certain buildings, and look at how we make some of the measures around that to sort of take into account some of that resilience, so that when people are striving to make their building green, at the same time that they actually understand that there's a component here that might be missing, which is that fire resilience piece. And you might need to do more about that if you're going to capture that benefit over time. Otherwise, it's transitory.
That's really interesting. Yeah, absolutely. You don't want your embodied carbon all going up in flames, do you?
Well, it's typified, and you know, one example is a lab building that's called the Zero Carbon Lab, and it's at a university in this country.
Yeah.
And during construction, it completely burnt to the ground.
Yeah.
I sat in a building award and watched the rebuild of that building gain a sustainability award, knowing full well as I sat at a table at this event that I'd watched that building burn down.
Yes.
And everybody's claiming it's zero carbon, and I'm going, well, how is it zero carbon if it's all gone up in smoke?
Yes.
So, but my point is not to look at that and say that's a bad. It's more a case of when we're talking about it is let's think about the outcomes we want, and how do we drive to the right thinking within people. So if we're going to incentivize them to sort of make sustainability a big thing, how do we at the same time give the right weighting to fire issues, so that there's an equal value to putting a sprinkler system in a building, or there's equal value to getting the passive construction right, or there's equal value in selecting the right sorts of materials to clad the building from that make it resilient.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.